And good evening, everyone. Thank you so much again for joining me. My name is Crystal Dillard. I am a candidate for Texas House District 131 State Representative. And I am here today with my becoming very famous Schoolhouse to the State House podcast, where we look at different things that are affecting our community. It can be things that are affecting our community in a way that's really, really great. It can be some things that are concerns, but either way, we look at those and see how we can jump in with both feet to try and make sure that we address those things and at least get that conversation going. And one of the things that has really come to my attention within the past couple of years is that we've got a generation of young people who are, it's scaring me a little bit, my Facebook friends, because a lot of the young people are not engaging in the political process like they once did. Now, CNBC did a survey, and the survey said that of the um I believe of the young people 18 through 29 that are registered to vote, only 51% voted in the last election. Regardless of who they voted for, only 51% voted. That's a scary thing. And I'm a teacher. I have a very intelligent, astute, positive, productive young people coming through my classroom all the time. And it scares me to feel and to see that these young people are not engaging. They are not, maybe for whatever reason, they don't feel like the political process is something that is a relative to them. And we need to delve into that and figure out exactly what's going on and how we can come up with some viable solutions to that. So, what better way to do it than to bring in some actual Gen X people to talk about it? And I asked this young lady and these two young men to be very candid with me. And we may hear some dialogue today that we may not be ready to hear, but that we need to hear. And I'm going to jump right in and I'm going to have my guests introduce themselves. And I will start with the young lady to my right.
Hi, I'm Tony. I go to Wichita State University and I'm a sophomore.
Okay.
Hi, I'm David Flores. I go to Energy Institute and I am a graduating senior.
Hi, I'm Aaron Williams, and I'm a junior at Texas Tech University.
Okay, so needless to say, these are young people who have made the decision and made the choice to be proactive and to seek further education. So they know the importance of being an upstanding and a good and productive and contributing member of society. But I sent these guests some questions today because I want them to really think about some things, and they had a chance to think about it and look over the questions that I sent them. And I'm just going to jump right in because I want to get that dialogue on the floor. And ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you this: I'm not sure exactly where the conversation is going to go, but we're going to see where it goes. And hopefully, by the end of the hour, we will maybe have some viable solutions that we can share. So I'm going to start with Tony. Like to ask you this now: when talking in general with your friends and peers,
Mhm.
what are some of the most pressing concerns that you have? For example, what bothers you and your peers about what's going on in the world today?
One of the main ones is racial inequality. I think it's very different because I go to a predominantly white institute.
Mm-hmm.
I think the conversations shift, and I think the conversations are different rather than going to an HBCU. I
Mm-hmm.
think the conversations and like the backgrounds and the opinions are very different. But that's one of like my friends and I's main concern is racial inequality. Being a black person in a community of predominantly white community, my
Mm-hmm.
friends see it too, and they care for me and they worry for me, and they're like, "Well, Tony, what do we do?" So that's one of our biggest
Okay,
concerns.
interesting.
Yeah.
David, when you talk to your peers at school, what are some of the things that are some of the most pressing concerns? Because I know it's a little bit different for you because you're still in high school, but you're getting ready to enter that college realm within the next 10 months or so. So what are some of the things that are their concerns?
Well, me and my friends try not to speak politically because it becomes more controversial. We try not to or prevent that at all costs. But
Right.
sometimes, like Tony said, racial equality also comes up, but also abortion. That kind
Yeah.
of that has a very
Yeah.
big,
Yeah.
a very big standpoint at our school, and there's a lot of people that
Yeah.
it just does not make sense to them, and that's one of the big things that's really at our school.
So what you're telling me is that the high school students are actually having that dialogue too. I didn't know that. I thought that that was something that probably the older people would have dialogue about, but that is a source of dialogue at high schools too.
Mhm.
Interesting. Good. How about you, Aaron?
Racial inequality is a huge point, but also a lot of things that I see is mental health.
Yes.
You
Come on.
know,
Yeah.
Yes.
a lot of people in the college community, they suffer with different mental health issues, or they
Yes.
suffer with depression,
Yeah.
and it's I don't feel like this is properly addressed.
Yeah.
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 And it's interesting that you brought that up because more so now than ever, Aaron, you hear about crisis situations with students that have to do with mental health. And David, you're in a high school that it's probably quite stressful as far as your curriculum is concerned because it's a magnet high school and it is a technically driven magnet high school, and probably your workload is a lot different than it would be
Mhm.
at a regular high school. Do you guys ever have conversations about that, or are your peers feeling stressed out?
Yeah, we all check on each other. They do have some services at our school where people will go talk to a teacher if they have issues or if they're struggling with their mental health. But that is a pretty big concern at our school as well. I mean, it's for everyone, but
Yeah.
when you're in school, there's a lot more things that you go through, and your mental health sometimes isn't always there
Yeah.
for what you need. So yeah, there's a lot of that at our school, but they handle it pretty well.
That's good.
I would
That's
like to
good.
chime in on that
Yeah.
actually. I'm glad you brought that up because at my school they do such a good job. They can do like just a little bit better job, but just checking up on us. They do
Yeah.
such a good job. So like for example, they have like self-care Sundays where you can come and just chill out like in the big lounge area,
Uh-huh.
and you can make your little succulents or you can paint or whatever. Just get involved with the community.
Stress relievers.
Yeah, because I know this semester, for example, I took like really like hard, like demanding classes like financial accounting, and I was like, for one project, I was like, is it worth it? Is this project worth the mental struggle?
Right.
But my teacher was very accommodating. He went ahead and gave us a week extension, which is great.
Yes.
Got 100. Woo! But yeah, I think that's very important. Like that's something like everyone's dealing with. Yeah.
And it's interesting. I didn't disclose this to everyone, but Tony is my niece. So I can tell you that when Tony came home for Thanksgiving, the stress was all over her person, and you could tell, and I could tell she really wasn't able to unwind. She really wasn't able to enjoy being at home and enjoying her family. She literally stayed at home and studied the entire Thanksgiving week, and that was difficult for us because when your students come home from school, you really want to be able to see them and enjoy them. Let me ask you, and you can tell me if it's a too personal of a question to ask. I don't definitely don't mind you saying I'd rather not go there, but can you please tell me if personally you all have struggled with any instances where you felt like you needed to go outside of yourself in order to seek help because of the stress that you were under?
I can say yes. Very firmly. This semester was very hard for me. I know my freshman year of college was like really hard for me. I was just struggling with my depression and things like that. It was just really hard because number one, I was in a new state. No friends, no community, literally new state, didn't take a tour of the school, just went there. And I was like, I have to ask people for help. I have to ask people, be like, hey, I'm just going through it right now, well, which is great. I have a great community now.
Mhm.
And so I feel like the freedom and like the judgment free zone to be like, hey girl, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm not feeling well. I need some encouragement. I need some prayer. I need something. I need someone to, be like, hey, I'm rooting for you, kind of thing. Even with my counselors,
Yeah.
counselors at my school, that's really big. Like, it's okay to need help, and that's perfectly fine
Right.
because no one's asking you to struggle. No one's asking you to struggle on your own. No one's asking you to go through things alone. So there
Right.
are always services, and like I think David said, there can be like more services maybe throughout the
Yeah.
school, things like that, to benefit their students. Yeah. So.
David, how about being a graduating senior and prepping not only for your graduation but for getting ready to go into college? What level of stress does that bring to you? And have you ever felt like you would like to reach out, or has that ever been, or do you have your your safe places that you can go to within your own community and family?
Yeah, it is a bit stressful, but I'm also very excited for it. I'm in communication with my mother a lot. Like, she is a person who encouraged me all the time to do my best, and sometimes when I am stressed, I do talk to her about it. And
Good.
yeah, I always have people that I can talk to if I'm ever stressed, but it's mostly excited. But
Yeah.
there's still stress there about it because it's going into a new experience of my
Yes.
life. So yeah, so I'm sort of stressed, but I'm still very excited.
You're working, you can work through it. That's
Mhm.
good. And it's good, like you said, it's good to have those touch points, your parents, your good friends, relatives that you can go to and reach out to, and you feel comfortable doing that. Aaron, how about you? I know you've got a pretty, your dad was telling me about the school load that you have sometimes, and that it's really grueling and demanding. Have you ever felt that you needed to reach out?
There was a point in my programming class, we had this really hard project, and the professor really didn't help us out almost any at all. And it got to the point where it wasn't only me, but a large portion of us really questioned
Right.
whether we even wanted to continue engineering in itself,
Wow.
because we were so stressed out because he would give us these projects and it was these short timelines, and it really started taking a mental toll on a lot of us.
And what
And it
did you
was
have
really
to
bad.
do? I mean, what could you do? What were your safe places where you could?
What it really was I had a conversation with a group of friends, and it's like when you know that it's not only you,
Right.
Yeah.
It
when you
helps.
know, like, as a
It helps.
collection that all
Yeah.
of you are all struggling, it kind of forms, like, you all kind of form a strong bond. It kind of all lifts you all up.
Yes.
So it's all a push for all of us to make it together.
That's good. And that's your safe place,
Yeah.
the collective group, because you're going to be majoring in engineering too, right, David?
Yes.
And what type of engineering?
Civil.
Civil engineering. And you are, Aaron? What?
Electrical engineering.
Electrical engineering. And you are, Tony?
Entrepreneurship.
Okay, so we've got technical and we have got liberal arts, but each of those in its own realm can be extremely stressful, and that is something that as young people that we're dealing with right now. And I'm glad that we put that on the table, because we need to know the kinds of things that you all, as Generation Z, uh, young adults, are dealing with.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with it, then everybody else in your generation is dealing with it on some level. Let me ask you this. We're here today to really talk about and to jump right into why Generation Z young adults have seemed to pull away from the political process. And it breaks my heart, because I know, and I'm a history teacher, I teach history every day, and I know the importance of taking part in that process and not pulling away from it, and what is built up on that, and what can actually happen if there is a break in that particular system. So let me throw this out there, and I'll ask you this first, Aaron. If you are already a registered voter, and are you a registered voter?
Yes.
Yes, you are. And you live in Texas, so you can vote in Texas. What prompted you to register to vote? Was it something you initiated, or were you prompted more by your parents or friends?
I mean, of course, my parents encouraged me
Mhm.
to vote, but it was really the call that, I saw a lot of things going on in the political world that I felt like my voice was very important.
Yeah.
And I'd rather put my input in so that my voice is heard.
Right.
And I feel like that's very important.
Okay. So really, whether your parents encouraged you to do it or not, you were going to do it anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And how about you, Tony?
Well, I think it was very important. I think ever since I was a child, just growing up, I've always seen the importance. Well, she's my aunt. The importance of voting. I've never really questioned it because it was something I knew was like, this is something I have to do. This is not something like,
that you're
oh,
supposed to do.
it's
Yes.
yeah, not like have to, like, oh, you have to do this, or you're gonna, it's like repercussions. Like, no, I always knew, okay, this is very important, not just by telling you, just by like, but just by people's actions.
Right.
And so yes, I'm a registered voter. Actually, I registered in Texas, but I think I voted in Kansas. So I
Okay.
voted in Kansas. So I went down and voted for,
Your candidate.
yeah, my candidate. It was so exciting, and they took my picture and everything. I was like, oh my
So
god.
this was your first. Your
It was my first time voting.
First time voting.
And I think it was very important for me because I was like you said, like, oh, I can be heard. Like, my opinion matters. My vote counts. Like, the one vote, like, it counts. It matters.
Okay. And David, that's something coming up for you very soon. So when will you turn 18?
Actually, in about 2 weeks.
Wow.
Happy early birthday,
David.
Yeah.
Hey,
That's right around the corner. I thought you were going to say, "Oh, well, next May or next June."
Like,
But
no, 2 weeks.
well, let me pose that question to you. Do you think that you will register when you turn 18? And has that been something that has always been a dialogue in your house or among your friends, or is it something that you just decided to do on your own?
Well, I mean, I see my parents vote every year that they're supposed to be voting,
Right.
and also when I was in elementary, we did some mock elections, and I always wanted to. I was like, well, what if I actually did this
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
I'm supposed to actually vote? And so I am excited about that because, like they said, you do get to have your opinion and your voice in there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think a lot of the people that like we were saying that it's down in years is because of social media. Everybody's reading fake
Yes.
media and
Yes.
everybody's getting into all these conspiracies that their voice aren't heard. But really,
Yeah.
it's not really that you're not heard. It's you have to think, but there's a lot of people in the world. So I
That's
mean,
right.
if even if you do think that your voice does not count, your voice does count.
Absolutely, it does. And I know that you went to, like I told you, David was one of my students, but also you had another one of our teachers at the school who was Mr. Santos. And you were in student government, and Mr. Santos is over student Congress. And he took you all every year to different types of events that really played out the judicial system and the electoral system, so that you really got an idea of how to jump in there and what the process actually was.
Mhm.
Did seeing some of that played out in school help to steer you towards more towards really wanting to be involved in that process?
Some of this, yes. It's just always exciting to be part of the political process because you know that you're going to make a change for your future. So yeah, a lot of that did influence why that I want to register.
Good.
I think
I'm
well, one
glad.
thing- I think
Yeah.
I think it's important to, like, also point out, like, my mom, when I remember when I was very young, I went with her to cast when she casted her ballot, and I was like, I saw all these adults, and I was like, what is this?
It must be important.
But like, it's kind of weird when you're young and you have to wait until you're 18 to do it. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, and like when I turned 18, I was like, oh, I can vote now. Like, there are things that I can do now just because I'm 18. Like, it's like, when you drive, when you're starting to drive, you couldn't do that before, but now you can.
Yeah.
Like, when you're a legal age, I'm like, oh, I can vote now. This is really cool.
Okay. Let me ask you guys this, and I'm going to start with David. David, in your everyday conversation with your peers at school, when the conversation of politics or voting comes up, what is the general attitude about among high school students about politics or voting? I remember what it was when I
wanna
was
know
in
that.
school, and they would very quickly change the subject.
Yeah.
I know, I know that it may be a little bit different now because so many of you guys have witnessed, because of social media and electronic media, things that are happening out there that are really, really fire plugs, to people's emotions. So when you guys are at school and you talk about politics or things that are going on in politics, what um what is the general attitude of the students?
Well, my school is very different. A
Mhm.
lot of the students there are very interested in politics. Like
Okay.
right now, I'm taking government, so I have been really introduced to way more politics than I have been in the past.
Hmm.
So I have been kind of researching a lot of different candidates of past elections and a lot of
Yes,
stuff. But at our school, we are pretty involved in politics
that's good.
in our student body.
So they don't just shut it down.
Well, it depends on who you talk to. Like,
Yeah.
there's some
Yeah.
people who rather not talk about it because
Okay.
to them it's not important. But
Right.
if you talk to the right people who are actually interested in today's politics, you'll find a lot of those at my school.
Well, I'm going to ask you a really direct question. If you could just give me a guesstimate of well, how many students are enrolled at your school? Just a general number.
Roughly
500, 600,
maybe seven.
but about 700.
Oof.
If you could give me an average of about how many students would you say are really concerned about not necessarily politics, but what's going on in their world, and how many really are really just worried about what's going to happen or when the next party is? If you could, because I know your school's different, like
Mhm.
you said, would it be 50-50? Would it be 75-25? What do you think?
It'd probably be more of 60-40.
Okay,
Um, Everybody believes in a lot of different things, but they are very influenced and they are very proactive in what they believe in. So
that's good. That's good to hear.
I
That's
have
good to
I've
hear.
had friends who go to actually who went to energy. They graduated in 2020. I think at your school may be different because like you have such mental like differentiations. You know, like just like
Mhm.
with like your backgrounds and things like that, coming from different places. You know, just different mindsets. You
Mhm.
know, so I think that's really cool though because I was wondering how the conversations were at your school,
Yeah.
just because I didn't go like to somewhere like that, but I think that's really cool.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm gonna turn to you first because I know that when you were in high school and even now, you basically said at the very beginning that your conversations, when they turn to politics or social issues right now, are people really interested in talking about it, or would they rather shut it down?
Well, in high school, we kind of all had like the same, cause like the same kind of feelings
Right.
towards it, which is funny, cause like I went to a predominantly Hispanic and Black high school,
Hmm.
so like a lot of us have the same opinions on things like that. But now in college, it's very different.
Hmm.
Especially since I go to a PWI, it's like, oh, okay, it's kind of hard to have political conversations, if I'm being honest, because it's like if you have like let's say if you have really like your best friends, right?
Yes.
And then you're talking, and then politics comes up. We're like, maybe let's not talk about this because we'd rather not jeopardize our friendship or like ruin
Okay.
that relationship. It's like that's how it is because
Yeah.
you want to respect other people's opinions,
Right.
but I feel like there might be certain things where you're like, well, I can't respect that opinion, and that tears like this whole friendship up or this whole
Right.
like this bond you've created. So it's kind of hard, but the good thing is there are spaces for you to be heard. So for example, I'm in the Black Student Union.
Hmm.
And that's like a space for like us to come together and be like, you know what, this is irking me, or this I don't like this about this candidate, or
To be able
whatever.
to vent.
You're
Yeah.
able to like honestly feel how you feel. Like it's okay. Like you're able to be where you are, like mentally and everything around people, and
Right.
that's okay. And no one's like asking you to be something else.
Right.
I just think in college it's very different because now you have a plethora of people, a plethora of cultures and backgrounds
Right.
coming together in one place, and that's okay for everyone to have their opinion.
Yes.
But mostly my friends and I just kind of like we know where we stand, and we just kind of let that go. We just kind of shut it down and we just move
Yeah.
on because I'd rather keep our it's like I'd rather keep my friendships. I'm not saying
I'm going to come back to that because I
Yeah.
want to touch on that. I want to
Yeah.
touch on that. But Aaron, when the conversation goes to events, social events, and political events that are going on, do your peers at school shut it down? Would they rather not talk about it, or do they jump in with both feet?
It's some of them, they try to, kind of be a little bit standoffish of it,
Okay.
but I'm always the person I always like to jump in. I just jump in.
Yeah.
So, especially at Texas Tech, I come across a lot of people who have opposing views than I do.
Right.
And a lot of them they do jump in. They do try to argue with you,
Yeah.
try to, have a little bit of a confrontation,
Okay.
to try
Now,
to get
is
their
it
point
a
across.
confrontation or is it a dialogue?
A dialogue,
Okay.
more or less. A dialogue, more
Okay.
or less. Yes.
Okay. So those topics are brought up, and how comfortable do you feel engaging in that dialogue when it does come up? I know you stand your ground because I know your parents.
Depending on the setting, yeah, I'm like I have no problem. I have no problems if there's a point that I really feel very strongly about, I'm gonna make sure my statement is known.
Okay.
I think
Yes.
I think that's important because like a lot of people feel like opposing views are confrontation. You know,
Mhm.
I'm not saying you. I'm just saying like people that I know or like in general. But it's like no, I'm not. We might have opposing views, yes, but this is just banter. This is
Right.
just dialogue. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't mean I'm gonna like argue you down. Like we can just have a civil conversation and disagree. That's okay. That's the thing.
And one thing that I can tell you this that I have to address in my class a lot, and I don't know if people realize this, but from the very beginning of the history of our country was founded upon the premise of having different belief systems and different dialogues having to sit down at the same table and come to a common ground.
Yeah.
That's how we've brought our country forward. If everyone believed the same way, exactly about the same thing all the time, how would any of us grow?
Yeah.
How would anyone grow if for no other reason do you sit down and hear other people's opinions? Is it would be simply because you don't have the same frame of reference that someone else may have. And it is okay to come from different places, different backgrounds, have a different frame of reference. I would never know about that unless you shared it with me.
Yeah.
And when you share it with me, I can better understand or be able to empathize with why you may feel the way you feel.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily mean that I agree with it or I think it's right, but I feel that when you explain to me what your frame of reference is, then I can say, oh, I can understand why he or she may feel that way.
Yeah.
I feel like conversations offer like they make room for like a little bit of grace. Like, okay, oh, I get what you mean. Like, I get what you're saying. Okay, well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's the dialogue. You just don't know unless you have the dialogue. You just don't.
Yeah, like in one perspective, like I have a friend who does have an opposing viewpoint than I do, but it was the Monday before Thanksgiving break. We sat down and we had a really good conversation, and there was a lot of things he brought up to me from his perspective that I had never thought about.
Right, exactly.
And it opened up my eyes, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah.
And I see, and I like that you said when you started the conversation is that I have a friend.
Yes.
And even though you did not share, you still may not share exactly the same belief system. You can have a reference point as to why your friend feels the way that they feel and what may have brought them to that place. And so many times it's only because people's experiences, their personal experiences have been different. So they cannot share the sameness that you have experienced unless you bring it to them in that way. Let me ask you guys this. Tony, I'm going to come back and ask you something really quickly. Now, if you can, I put this down because I wanted you all to think about this before you got here.
Okay.
And you may be able to share with me 3 of these, and then maybe you may only have 1. But I want to pose this question to you. If you could think of 3 incentives or catalysts that may be able to get your peers out to vote and express their rights and their opinions in greater numbers at the polls, what do you think could be done to get your generation out to vote in more than a 51% turnout?
Are you asking me first?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I would Actually, I would not say material things. I would definitely just like getting in the mindset, you're our generation, we are the future. The laws that we have in place now, they're
You're gonna
gonna
make
be
it.
on us. We
Yeah.
have to
Exactly.
the laws that are in place now, they're gonna be affecting us. The laws that we're gonna make, they're gonna affect us. So it's not something like, oh well, I just I didn't really care. You're gonna have to care when you're older. You're gonna have to care when you when things are going on that affect you, like with things like climate change. And people don't care about that, but it's like, oh, when you have to live in it and when it's prevalent in your day, you're gonna care. So I think it's getting people to understand that, okay, people are, generations are coming and going, but it's gonna be like directly in your face. How are you gonna handle that? When
Right.
it's put in your face. I think that's important.
Awesome. David, what do you think could possibly be done to get more of your peers when they are of age to understand the importance of voting?
Also kind of like what she was saying, a lot of us, like everybody's saying that, oh, our opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, in the future, like you not voting is also causing all or some of the problems that are going on in
Yeah.
today's world. If you don't vote, you can't really say that um, that you had any influence
Right.
into what's going on in the world because you didn't vote for a person who could actually help us instead
Yeah.
of voting for a person who didn't help us, as well as all as fake media. Like we can try to minimize that by showing like demographics and numbers of how much young people's
Mhm.
vote influences the actual
Yeah.
elections of candidates.
Yes.
Like that.
Absolutely. And the thing is, when I pose that question to Aaron in just a second, I want to circle back around and address something specifically, um, exactly how young people have to understand, and not just young people, but a lot of people need to understand that voting and making changes and having things to change, but as far as laws are concerned, it's a process. It's not a one-time thing,
Mhm.
and a lot of times people don't understand the process. Aaron, if you could think of one or two things that would help get your peers of all demographics out to the poll, people your age, what do you think could actually do that?
um More candidates that have their viewpoints,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of times many of us, we know that our candidates may not win it, so a lot of us are kind of a little bit iffy about going to the polls.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely a problem now. And not even only that, but also better access when it comes to voting,
Okay.
because many people I know, around the time that voting comes around, it's
Yeah.
usually on a Tuesday.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends either they go to school or they have a
They're in
job.
class. Yeah.
So, and it's really hard for them, when you have to wait in a long line, and that's very discouraging to them.
Wow. I
In
never
their busy
thought about that in
schedules.
terms of students. I really didn't think about that in terms of students. You think about it all the time in terms of working people,
Yes.
but when you think about students having to go to classes, some students go have classes at night. Some
Yeah.
students work on campus and they have jobs or work off
Exactly.
campus.
Some students have children.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Access. That makes a whole lot of sense.
And also, people might be living in really cold places.
Yeah.
Like I live in Kansas. It's like negative 13 degrees sometimes. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't want to stand in a long line. But also, the thought came up to me, like, you're not voting is affecting other people. You're
Right.
not
It is.
voting is affecting the livelihood of other people.
It's not just you.
It's not just you. Your assignment is not just you. It's about people's human dignity. It's about your one vote can throw off millions of people, can throw off hundreds of years of work and things like that. So
Yes, ma'am.
it's not just about you. Well, I don't want to. Think about the people behind you. Think about your child who's looking up at you, while you
Right.
do things. It's not just about you. It's about generations after you, your generation.
Exactly.
And you guys put yourself in my position where I'm in a classroom with 13 and 14-year-olds every day. And of course, at this point, they don't understand the importance of voting. But I can tell you this, more so than at any other time in history, they had their eyes on what was going on,
Yeah.
what is going on in the world right now. It surprised me because as a history teacher, and I've taught all types of history.
Taught me.
Yes, I was her history teacher too. But as a history teacher, that demographic of student couldn't usually care less. They can't even tell you who the president is, let alone the vice president. But and they just that's just not where they are in their lives at that point, and you can't blame them, for that, unless you're a student like David was, and David seemed to know everything that was going on.
David
I
was
don't mean to
aware.
put you. I know. David seemed to be the only one in the class who knew what was going on politically, and I was like, my gosh, does David watch CNN every night? What is he doing? But that was good to at least have somebody in the class who knew about what I was talking about. But on the middle school, with the middle school age demographic, that's usually not something that that students are really aware of. But
I think social media has a role to play in that too.
Everyone,
touch
on that.
All
touch
13-year-olds and 14-year-olds have social media. They have TikTok. They have Instagram, Snapchat.
Yes.
Everyone has it. So you if you don't want to see it, you might as well delete all your social media apps, delete your account, because you're gonna see it in some way or another. Like for example, like on Instagram has Instagram stories.
Do you have an Instagram account?
Yes.
Like Instagram account? Stories, yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah.
There it is, guys.
Everyone
there it
has
is.
It.
They have it. Yeah.
They all have access. We're like the first generation to like all like front row access.
Yeah.
To everything, to everyone's opinions, like you said, like fake media, things like that, to everything. So if you don't want to see it, it's very harder than not.
Well, let me. Like I said, I was going to circle back around to this. Yeah. What is it that we need to do as people who are, as the adults in the room, to the young adults in the room, to get the point across that it's a process? The things, just because you vote one time and it doesn't go your way, shouldn't be why you fold your arms and go to the corner or take your ball and leave the room. What do we need to do in order to make people understand that the tide may not turn this time, it may not turn the next time, but generally you see a tide start to turn within 5 years. Okay. Yeah. But how do we keep our Gen Zs at the poll for that duration, even though the reward that they feel is the reward may not be instantaneous? What do we need to do?
A lot of times in life, rewards are not instantaneous.
Yeah.
You have to develop that sense of discipline to be like, okay, you know what? It didn't work out right now, but hey, I will see the fruits of my labor down the road. But that's true.
That's like going to college.
That's like,
exactly.
I'm sophomore year. My freshman year, I was like, do I really want this?
Yeah.
Like, do I need this degree? Yeah, I do, because I know what I want to do. But I know at the end of that 4 years, I'll get that diploma. And I'm like, you know what? I can start stepping into my next season in my life.
Right.
But I think as adults, I think it's important to like just let your kids see what's going on in the world. Don't try to hide them from what's going on. Don't try to baby them.
Yes.
Like when we talk about, for example, like just things like last year with racial inequality. Don't try to, it's not, well, no, they need to see that because they need to see how it's affecting them.
Well, like you said, in social media, you can see it with your own eyes.
You can see it.
Yeah.
Quarantine was a perfect way for everyone to see that. COVID was literally, it was like okay, it made you have to stay at home and do nothing but watch TV most of the time. So, but because that's what you had access to. So you had to see it. So I think that's really important for parents to be like, hey, your life is maybe have a good life, but you have to see what's going on outside of just you.
Right. David, what do we need to do? What can we do to make sure people understand that the process does not happen overnight?
Yeah.
Well, kind of want to take it back to like a youth perspective. Well, most of us are younger.
Yeah.
Younger perspective.
Well, thank you, David.
David was like, actually, age difference. Tell him, David.
So we've all heard the term of no pain, no gain, or practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
Not everything happens when you try it the first time. You have to keep trying in order for something to actually happen.
Yeah.
So you practicing, like me, I'm practicing piano, and I know that I have to consistently practice in order for me to become better at that.
Right.
And so you vote one time, you can't expect that just to be that's like
A one and
you're-
done, yeah.
it's-
If it didn't happen that time, I'm gonna take my ball and go home.
Yeah,
it-
it's like shooting
yeah.
in basketball. I'm so bad at basketball, just like FYI. But like I'm so bad. But I was like, you know what? Sitting up and trying to learn those like layups or like free throws. You might not make all your shots, but you might make some. You know, but like it's practicing that. And it's like, okay, you know what? Well, each shot I get, I know how to do my technique better. You know, and things like that. So it's not a one time thing. Yeah.
Aaron, what can we do to keep them in that voting booth until they can understand what the process is supposed to be like?
One thing that I saw encouraged a lot of my friends was especially like things like what happened with Stacey Abrams.
Okay.
Like we all saw how like, and she didn't win.
Yeah.
But when her influence pushed what happened this past year in Georgia,
right,
it was huge.
It was huge.
It's just that slow push
right
ended up being something that was great.
Right.
So it's just
and people were watching from all over the world.
Yeah, you could not see it. You could not see it. Yeah.
Okay.
This dialogue, I like this. Love this banter.
Now I'm gonna put you guys on the hot seat. Okay. As though you haven't been on the hot seat so far, but I'm gonna put y'all on the hot seat now because I bring this up to my peers all the time and my colleagues because it's something that I want to start seeing myself. I'm gonna start with Tony. Tony, why do you think more people in your generation are not running for office? And what can we do to get them to change their minds? Because I want to say this, there are in some cities, in order to run for political office, you only have to be 18 years old, you know? And in some states, in order to run for state office, you only have to be 25 years old, okay, or younger. So what's making people your age stay away from wanting to take that step?
Okay, this is gonna sound really a lot of people are not interested in that kind of like paperwork and that and like sitting down and just like having to use their brains like, okay, oh, this is a hard thing to think about, you know, like or to like grasp. But let me see if how I can use my brain power to try to solve it. A lot of people are not interested in that. A lot of people are just like I said, some people are just literally just not interested in politics like whatsoever. And so I think for my generation, we're focused on like having fun, living our best lives.
Yeah.
Politics does not seem like it's living its best life right now. It doesn't seem like fun, like how like it's a lot of meetings and just, you know, boardroom things and, you know, suits and things like that. And a lot of my generation is like, you know what? No, we're not doing that. Let's just go live our best life kind of thing. Yeah.
And before you stop, I want you to explain to me, because I know what you mean by it, but explain to everyone who's listening what you mean by suits.
Suits, just news suits. Like, you know, people like the button downs and the ties and the how are
the
you,
people
Mr.
who wear
Governor?
them. Yes.
Yeah. How are you, Mr. Governor? Oh, I'm well. How was that? Like, oh, it's so much. It seems so like kind of like draining. Not gonna lie, it kind of seems boring.
Yeah,
being honest.
Well,
I'm not
honest
interested
dialogue.
in that.
The extreme professionalism. Yeah.
It's like I can't have it doesn't feel like I can have fun like with it. Like I'm like, oh hi, how are you? What do you feel about this? What is this financial thing? Like, oh no, I don't want to get into it. I'd rather just kind of stay in my bubble, talk about the things that I know and the things that I'm interested in. I'll let everyone else handle that kind of vibe, you know?
Okay, David. Pretty soon you'll be of age that if you wanted to, in some cities in America, you could run for city council.
Ooh.
Why do you think? But we don't see it a whole lot. We saw it in Pearland last year, where we had an 18-year-old running for city council.
Did he win?
Why do you think we're not going to go into that campaign?
No, sorry.
We want to keep it here with us.
Sorry.
Why do you think that more people your age don't even throw their hat in the ring? And I take my hat off to that young man in Pearland, because that was really taking a bold step.
It's hard.
Well, a lot of people want to be popular. Like everybody wants to be popular at some point. But when you go into politics, you're always watched. Every move you make, you make it's like, which is why there's always political scandals. You make one wrong move and everybody's on you for that. So I feel like a lot of young people do not want to have to deal with that on that extent, like through politics, because that just becomes something totally different. And then you have a very controversial campaign, or sometimes it just you just feel like you want to quit. Like you don't have that mindset.
Support,
Yeah, exactly.
And some people want to be popular. No one wants to be unpopular, you know.
Yeah.
So no one wants to be like, everyone's like, I hate you. Hey, look at me, everyone hates me. You know, like, no one wants to do like that's like in our like it's not like human nature. No one wants to be like disliked by everybody, you know.
Aaron, another college student. Why aren't more people your age and your demographic running for office? Because if they did, wouldn't more people your age be interested in the process?
They
What's going on?
would, but exactly like you said, a lot of the people that I know, they're not really into they're into politics, but they're not into it where they want it to be their life.
Yeah.
So but Aaron, if you don't, what happens is that a lot of people who are a lot older than you, whose life experiences are totally different from yours, who may be going through another season in their lives, are making decisions for you.
Yes.
So what needs to happen?
I think there needs to be more encouragement of it, because a lot of times also they really think that they can't win.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've talked to some people who they've had the idea in their head, but it's like when you're going up against somebody who does have some decent donors, or somebody who does have a slight financial backing, and you know that you don't have that yourself, you can't run a campaign ad on TV. You don't have enough money to go out and go buy a billboard to, put out somewhere so people know your name. So they don't want to.
Unless you're Barack Obama.
Yeah,
okay. That's why that's why I'm pushing back with that, especially. And I wanted to bring that point up to you all, especially because what I would really like to see are more people of your demographic, a little bit older than you, and then that mid demographic in their 30s, and then that middle-aged demographic in their 50s and 60s, and then that older demographic in their 70s and beyond. I think what needs to come to the table to make decisions are people who fit every one of those demographics. And then you will see more laws and more legislation that's so much more inclusive, because if nothing else, that dialogue has come up, the sharing of ideas that maybe we didn't have a touch point or a frame of reference on coming from those different places. Would that make a difference in the types of laws that we have?
Definitely.
Yeah, if you only bring a group of people to a table and be like, hey, talk about your feelings, a lot of them are gonna agree. If you like the same people, I'm saying like same mindset, that makes sense,
and the same age demographic,
or same or sometimes same background, same culture. A lot of people, if you only have that certain type of people, you're gonna get similar results. But if you have hey, you're bringing someone else in the mix who doesn't fit that that criteria, you're gonna have some pushback, you're gonna have some banter, you're gonna have different ideas come up. And like you said, I think earlier, if you don't tell me, I can't know. You know, so that's
okay. David, let me ask you this: when you get ready to walk across that stage in May, and we're all hoping that we'll all be able to have traditional graduations like we've had in the past. But when you get ready to walk across that stage in May, I want you to tell me, and I didn't put this on your questions because it's something I want you to be really candid about. And I'm going to ask this of all of my guests. When you get ready to walk across that stage in May, what type of commitment can you make to yourself and your community that you are going to try to do your best to exercise that right of political participation?
Well,
will you vote in every election?
Yeah, well, every election I'm able to vote.
Right.
But also, I mean, going back to like history, our country has been founded on protests.
Yes.
So like, whenever I see something that I feel is a very big injustice, I will do my best to protest that. Even while I'm in college, I will try my best to find things that are just politically incorrect and try to protest against them.
Do protests work?
Well, not all the time, but it just because you have a small amount of protesters does not mean that it can't it can't
Yeah.
change anything. It's
Yes.
it's probable cause over quantity. So it
Right.
could be 3 or 4 people, but if we
Right.
have a great cause, that
Yeah.
can change
Yes.
Yeah.
very drastically.
And protest simply means getting people to listen.
Mhm.
Getting people to listen. Aaron, what kind of commitment do you think that you can make? And I'm going to put you a year out when you walk across that stage and walk into your actual 100% full adulthood of having those adult responsibilities. What commitment do you think that you could make right now to promise a promise to yourself that you're going to take part in that political process from this point forward? Or do you think it's important to?
Um, I think it's very important too. But as he said, yes, voting in almost every election possible,
Yeah.
doing as much as I possibly can to so that my voice is heard. But not only that, but encourage others
Yes.
to do the same as me, so that we can get as many people as possible to voice their opinions and have their voices heard.
Yes.
I,
And Tony, I don't even have to ask, but tell me, what commitment can you make that when you are able to exercise your full participation as an adult, that you will continue to go forward in the political process?
I think showing up for others starts by showing up for yourself.
Yes.
So if you show up for yourself and like fighting those injustices, it doesn't just because you're one person, you have a voice. You have people are gonna hear you. So that starts with like showing up for yourself. And I'm definitely gonna be voting in every election. I am registered. I have got my little pin and everything. I voted. Yeah, I'm gonna do that in every election. But I think it definitely starts off by showing up for yourself in thought, and just the way you interact with others. Just everything. So.
Now, all of you guys, let me ask you this: registering to vote. How easy or difficult was it for you to register to vote? And what do you think we as a community can do to make sure that we make registration more accessible? Where should we be going to get to your demographic?
I think going to colleges, even going to some high schools, so you can start getting the early 18-year-olds in on the
Yes.
voting process. I think starting there, almost exactly what they did this past year with giving out ballots. I
Yes.
thought that was an excellent way, because it encouraged a lot more people to go out and vote.
How do you think we can get to them? Especially those who are going to be the new voters like you.
Mhm. Well, I mean, they've always tried getting to the young voters, and like instead of spreading, or instead of people spreading just fake media, like I've been saying, they should start, or they should continue to spread more information about voter registration and early voting on social media, more than they already do. But I think it should be improved drastically on social media, since everybody is on that, and instead of us looking at videos of cats and dogs.
Bing, 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 bing. I love it. I love it, David. Okay. Social media, getting to people via social media. Do you think people should be able to register online, or is that a slippery slope?
I registered online.
Well, I mean,
I think, yeah.
registering online is okay. I mean, it's easy access to, but we also have to think about cybersecurity.
Yes.
Stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I registered online. I was really kind of confused, if I'm going to be honest, because I was like, do I register in Texas? Do I register in Kansas? I was like, well, what do I do? But luckily, when I registered in Texas, I went up to Kansas and I was like, oh, sorry, when I registered in Kansas, I'm not registered in Texas. Excuse me. I'm registered in Kansas. But I registered in Kansas while I was at home in Texas.
Okay.
But I was like, what do I do? Like, it was kind of confusing the way it had it to send out, because it was kind of like before the elections and things like that.
Yes.
So I was like, what do I do? Like, how do I actually do this? But then what was good at my college, they had like the big, like where you can get Chick-fil-A and things like that, like the little
Like the little commons,
the student
commons,
center,
yeah.
they had a table outside. It was like, register to vote, like with a question mark, and it was like, oh, you can check and see if your voter, I guess your voter ID or things like that was already in the system, which is registered, which is really nice, because I got and plus you get like a confirmation email when you've actually registered, which is really good. But it was like no, not registered. It's free and it's easy, and they had little tablets. And my friend Tony literally signed up right then, and she was good to go.
Okay.
So that was good. I think it was nice.
Okay, so electronic, that's a
Yeah.
bonus.
That's
Mhm.
especially in our day and age. We all have phones. We all have computers. Like
Being able to register remotely, that's a
Exactly.
bonus.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
what I did. Yep.
Huge.
Okay, now what about this? And I'm only asking this because I don't know. It may be something that I need to look into. But how secure is it when you're registering online that everybody know that it's you? Did you have to provide any type of
I would think
sensitive data, your driver's license
I
and
would-
your social security number?
I
Or
would think social security number. I don't think because there's so
can
many.
you remember what you put in there?
I
How
think
you
I put
registered?
my I think I put my social security
Date
number
of
in
birth,
there.
of
My
course.
date of birth, because there's so many other Tony Bryants in the world, in the
Yeah.
U.S. Alone. But I think it's definitely your because at my time I didn't have my driver's license,
Okay.
so I think it was my social security number. I think because
Okay.
I literally had my permit. So
Mm.
Okay. Um, security issues as far as registering online. Do you think it's a safe thing to do?
I think it should be, and I definitely think that we should be able to put things in place that it is, especially dealing
Yes.
with registration.
Right.
You know, um, it shouldn't really be that difficult of a process to really secure the servers so that we can at least register to vote.
Right.
yeah,
Well, do you all agree with this? A lot of people have stated that there are parties within our own country who would attempt to stifle others from being able to vote.
mm,
Do you find that that's a valid statement? Yes or no?
Yes.
yeah,
Mhm.
Oh,
definitely.
definitely.
There are
Definitely.
definitely people who do not want people to have their voice heard.
But that's what our
Yeah.
country was founded upon, everyone being able to vote. Now, if
Mhm.
you want to stifle someone's ability to vote, would that read out into meaning for whatever reason you would not be comfortable with everyone having that liberty?
Can you reframe that question?
Yeah.
Yes,
Because
I
my
would.
it went like in my ear. I was like, what
Why?
does this mean?
Why would anyone be afraid of someone else being able to vote?
Because it takes the power away from them.
Yes.
Exactly.
Mhm.
It takes their propaganda away from them. It takes what their mindset. It makes them realize, oh wait, I have to share this. I have to share.
But share doesn't necessarily mean anything is taken away from anyone else. When
But sharing, but if you have to share, that means you have to let someone else in on what you're doing. So it's not just yours at this point. You have to like, oh, I have to open the door for them. I have to do this. Like when I say open the door, I'm talking like with different opportunities.
Okay.
And I think people are just scared of their power being taken away, or people disagreeing with them on a bigger level.
Yes. They don't like they want their opinion to be the only opinion.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so they're
Come on.
worried. They don't want that to go away.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
David, you want to chime in on that? You think
Um,
anyone is afraid of others having power?
yes, I mean we've seen in past elections that there's
Yeah.
always people trying to cut off ballots and votes that just of people who they believe are not who they want to be in candidacy or
Right.
in office.
Right.
So we've seen a lot of cases where that has happened. There's a lot of people who are afraid of that happening.
Yeah.
Wow. You guys have shared a lot of information, and I'm glad that I brought you in. Guys, you see why I wanted to have this generation come in and share some information. I told you that it was going to be, it was going to kind of blow your hair back, but they certainly did open our eyes. I want to thank you so much for coming in and sharing with us today at this particular podcast. These are going to be these people sitting right around me right now. This is what a lot of America looks like today in 2021. We had better get ready to embrace their opinions too. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Crystal Dillard. I'm a candidate for state representative in District 131 here in Texas. I thank you for your support. Go to my website if you'd like to donate to my website. That's great. Please remember that these guests being here are not an endorsement of me or any other candidate. They are here for educational and informational purposes only. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.